This is the Spurs POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the San Antonio Spurs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, after a pretty wild weekend bender in Las Vegas, you're thinking maybe the Spurs are going to come out a little bit flat tonight, right? No, not so fast. Instead, in a good return back to San Antonio, your silver and black, they do not skip a beat. Welcome into the Spurs Postcast right here on Locked On Spurs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, as you know by now, the #1 sports podcast network in all of the land. My buddy Devin Brown, he's got the night off. So me, Casey Viera, I'm here to anchor the ship, here to pilot the ship the rest of the way tonight, talking about a Spurs victory, a 119-94 win for San Antonio in their first game in San Antonio since December 2nd, of course, in the middle of this 20 days on the road out of 22, 20 days on the road out of 22. And tonight they came back in a position, taking on a Washington Wizards team where the Spurs entered as 15.5-point favorites. And it wasn't particularly pretty. I was talking about hangovers and things like that. And at times in the first half, they maybe did look a little hungover after that great trip to Vegas. But ultimately, things go their way, and they walk away with a convincing victory, spearheaded by their young rookie, Dylan Harper, and his career-high 24 points. So let's get you caught up to speed.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Yeah, because that first half, it largely was not anything special. Spurs take a 4-point lead into the break, didn't shoot particularly well. They hit half their shots, but they couldn't really get any kind of a sense of consistent flow, if you will, for lack of a better term. This was another game where Victor Wembanyama came off the bench, and we found that out pregame that again that was going to be the case, that we were going to get our third installment of bench Wemby in as many games. And he actually checked in a little bit later that he had, I guess, the latest of the 3 games that he did play has played off the bench. The first one against Oklahoma City, he came right at the start of the second, and against the Knicks over the weekend, he came in about midway through the first. This, he didn't come in until the 9-minute mark of the second quarter, largely inconsequential. 7 minutes, 2 points, couple rebounds. Dylan Harper was the high man at the break. He had 13. Washington comes out in the break and they get a quick couple scores to even things and ultimately take a 1-point lead early in the third quarter. But the Spurs, from that point going forward, Wemby checks back into the game. Devin Vassell hits a few threes. They go on a 14-2 run between the two of them, Wemby and Vassell, making up 11 of that 14 to subsequently go up by 11 and never really looked past that or led up past that after that. They outscore them 34-22 in the third. Ultimately, in the second half, they go plus 21, 62-41, and it leads to a 119-94 victory for the Spurs. Dylan Harper was the guy, however, and for the second consecutive game, he was doing it from distance. I know the play-in game, not the play-in game, the Emirates Cup championship game, it doesn't count for stats, but remember, he hit 5 threes and had 21 points in that game. Tonight, an even better showing. 24 points, 5 boards, 3 assists off the bench of 9 of 13 shooting, 23 minutes of work. Wemby, 15 points, 8 rebounds, 4 blocks, 17 minutes. So that's a pivotal number there. The 17-minute mark to stay relatively fresh. Vassell had 18. Stephon Castle, 17 and 6. De'Aaron Fox, 6 points, 3 assists on 1 of 8 shooting. Washington was coming in. Listen, they were coming in a 4-win team on the season, 4-21. Like I said, the Spurs were 15.5-point favorites coming into the night, and it played out accordingly. They won a game that they're supposed to win. They moved to 19-7 on the season. You're not really going to bed tonight feeling particularly blown away by anything that particularly happened, because everything that was supposed to happen did happen, and they walked away with a nice win. Want to talk to you, though, about, I guess, someone who we don't usually call the X Factor. Let's call him the X Factor tonight.
It's time to reveal who made the biggest under-the-radar impact with today's X Factor.
How about Wemby? Because we were not particularly sure what it was going to look like. Victor, unfortunately, with his grandmother passing over the weekend, whether he was going to be available. And we even got to midway through the second quarter, we're wondering, okay, is he even going to play tonight? Because Mitch Johnson did say before the game that Victor was going to be even more limited from what we saw out there in Vegas. So you're wondering what the extent of that limited is. But once Victor kind of got going, like everything else, that's when everybody else got going. It's so odd, so unique to kind of see him in this spot to, I guess, for lack of a better term, kind of spearhead an attack like that off the bench. They had a great night off the bench because between him and Harper, what's that math there? They're 39 alone. Obviously, the bench numbers are slightly skewed because of that, but you got a good look at Victor's impact. He was a plus 17 tonight, coming off the bench, and the residual effect of it all the way around. But it just kind of goes to show you that when you go into a game like this, like they did with Washington, team that they're supposed to win, you take care of your job, you get the luxuries of resting your big guy on the way back. And you get the luxuries of getting the younger guys like Harper consistent look, consistent reps. And I think what's so encouraging about the Dylan Harper side of it is that, it's the second consecutive game in a row that you've seen him basically lead the way. 21 points the other day, 24 points tonight. That's a career high. But you just love the pace of play, the flow of the game that he has right now, because for so long we've kind of been waiting on that point guard spot off the bench, and you've been seeing things kind of carry over into the second unit, and you're just kind of holding your breath. And I can think that kind of comes with the territory of having a rookie along the way now too, and you're still kind of, all right, well, we want to see him get him settled into things. The Spurs now are 13-3 when Dylan Harper plays. So clearly it's trending in the right direction, and he's done a fantastic job on that front to get that rhyme or reason going. 5 threes mentioned the other day, 3 tonight. And remember, he had only hit a handful coming into the season, or coming into the weekend when he hit those 5. I think it was 10 on the year collectively as a whole. But you like what you see. And it was a game that they just needed to go out and take care of business and do exactly that. And they did exactly that. Harper and Wemby, they continue to develop that chemistry because they've only played a handful of games together, with Harper first going down and then Victor. And, now the two of them getting together, I guess this would be the third consecutive game that they've actually played together. So that's been a gelling process all the way around. And I think that's going to kind of be a conversation as a whole. The healthier that they get, obviously knock on wood, the healthier Victor gets, and the more the chemistry evolves when you look at that dynamic as well. The primary ball handler when it comes to who best operates with Victor, because if you really want to think about it, the number of reps that he's had with Fox, the number of reps that he's had in game actual reps, the numbers that he's had with Harper have been tremendously limited. If you go back to last year, at least for the most part, he got a reasonable sample size, basically a full 48 or whatever the final number was. He ended up playing with Stephon Castle, but even at that point, you didn't really know what Stephon Castle was. You were encouraged by it. You knew he was trending the right way, but he wasn't really getting consistent minutes in the rotation, certainly not to the extent that he is now, which obviously has been fantastic. But that's something to keep an eye on going forward, just the consistent chemistry that they're building, the chemistry that's going to need to be built going forward into the thick of the Western Conference slate, and the positives that come along with it. And tonight was a good one because, sometimes this, to many extent, they kind of had, I don't want to say trap game, but this is the type of thing. If you're Washington coming in and you're having as poor a year as you're having, if you're ever going to catch a good team on their heels, this was it. Big emotional weekend, highs and lows in Las Vegas in the middle of just a heated stretch right now in the month of December. There was ever going to be a time for a team like Washington, the worst in the league, to pick somebody off. This was it. You just look what happened actually with the Knicks tonight in Indiana. The Pacers, not much better than the Wizards. And it took just some Jalen Brunson heroics down in the end for a weary Knicks team that played without Karl-Anthony Towns tonight. And Josh Hart, I believe, as well. And Brunson heroics got them out of that bind as well. So fatigue does, play a part in these things, especially when you ride the emotional roller coaster that those games were over the weekend. But the Spurs did their part, and now gets into a stretch where things get really dicey. The first of a 3-game and 4-night stretch, I guess in the middle of a 4-game and 6-night stretch before 2 big games Christmas week against Oklahoma City. And as we're saying this right now, as we're having this conversation, they're probably tidying up and getting ready to go back onto a plane after a quick 48-hour trip home or whatever it may be, to hop right on a plane, go to Atlanta, and get things go and continue them in the right direction for a game against the Hawks and again against the Wizards on Sunday. So let's talk about that a little bit more. Focusing on this Atlanta Hawks team, one that's going to look a little bit different thanks to a big-time return that they got tonight down there in the ATL. All that and more coming up following a Spurs victory tonight to move to 19-7 on the season. But before we hit on all that, I want to talk to you about a few of our title sponsors tonight. All right, first with Robinhood. Nobody knows your money better than you do. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do. Lock it in on every opening, beating your PR, then beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks, ETFs, options, futures, and crypto, all of it on one platform. Now you can build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/your money. Again, that's Robinhood.com/your money. Your money, your move. All right, let's be real. Nobody really gets into business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings, managing payroll spreadsheets, all that stuff you don't want to do. Then you have to do it. That's where Gusto comes in, takes the stress out of payroll, benefits HR, so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. An all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform makes managing your team simple, transparent, fast. That's all you want. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, Gusto helps you do it all from one place, no hassle or hidden fees. So try Gusto today at gusto.com/locked on NBA. Get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. It's right. 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/locked on NBA. And then finally, since we're staying on the pattern of money, let's talk Rocket Money. Ever feel like money just disappears each month? It happens fast. And a few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there. Suddenly the numbers in your bank account, they don't match the numbers in your head. And that's where Rocket Money is going to help you get clarity, track every dollar, stay in control of your finances, because managing your money should not feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress a whole lot less. Take control of your finances and cancel those unwanted subscriptions with rocketmoney.com. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked on today. That's rocketmoney.com, rocketmoney.com/locked on. rocketmoney.com/locked on. All right, Spurs winners tonight, back in town for one quick stay before hitting the road again one more time to take on a Hawks team this time tomorrow night. Well, I guess a little bit earlier from this time tomorrow. It's a 6:30 tip tonight, tomorrow night. Locally, 7:30 Eastern. An Atlanta team that, if you were keeping a close eye as things went earlier on in the season, just a couple weeks back, gave the Spurs all sorts of fits. That was the David Jones-Garcia game where he came out off the bench and completely bailed them out of trouble in a game that Atlanta shot upwards of 60% on the game, but they turned the ball over a ton thanks to Jones-Garcia's heroics, and ultimately, as we've seen all year, got them. It's taken a little bit of everybody, and it got them on the right track, and it ends up getting them on the right track like it did that night. So tomorrow night, the rematch in Atlanta, going to be a big return on its way. Trae Young is going to be playing. Trae Young presumably is going to be playing. We'll see how he fares on the tail end of a back-to-back, but he missed 22 games, essentially majority of the season for Atlanta, but he did return Thursday in Charlotte, a loss for the Hawks. Did not come off the bench. He was in the starting lineup for those curious as to how that went down. 8 points, 10 assists, 20 minutes of work. But now we're kind of waiting whether or not you'll see Trae on the other side of a back-to-back. And it's good that Wemby only played 17 minutes, right? And I guess we'll find out this time tomorrow how they handle the back-to-back side of things, the Spurs. But when you're playing 17 minutes in a situation where your big guys needing to rehab, you take it. But we'll keep an eye out. Jalen Johnson over there for Atlanta tonight had 43 points, 11 boards, and 9 assists. Changing of the guard a little bit for the Hawks. But this kind of puts into, again, perspective with what we know with this Spurs schedule in the month of December, that it was not going to be easy, and you got to take advantage of the games that you are heavy favorites and just put them away. Because the good thing when you play so well at the start of a month in a stretch like this, and you beat the teams that you're not supposed to beat on those nights that you show up to work, and then some, nights like they had in LA in that knockout round game, nights like you have in Orlando where they're coming off another back-to-back at the start of the month. That was the last time the Spurs were home. That was that Memphis game, and they go into Orlando on like 6 hours of sleep, get in at 3 a.m, and then beat a good Magic team without Victor. Those wins like you have earlier in the month like that, those are the ones that you love to get early, because when you have your nights, when you come off a back-to-back in Atlanta, going to Atlanta, and you show out and you lay an egg, not suggesting that the Spurs would, more so implying that they're in good shape right now, because they did the dirty work early, and now it's just kind of, okay, we're getting back into the swing of things. It would take whatever happens with it, and then you go along with it, especially when things are you're winning basketball games as well. They're 19-7 now on the season, right there in the thick of the Western Conference. We're having conversations as to how this, like we're going to be doing all year, as to how this, 3-guard thing is going to work out, and you're feeling good about life. I'm interested to see more so where the next step kind of is for Dylan Harper with all this, because the more that he puts these type of performances up, and like I said, 13-3 when he's in the lineup, like the number is overwhelmingly indicating that, suggesting that they're a whole lot better when Dylan Harper is in the building. But at some point he is going to, and we might honestly even be at that point, he is going to force Mitch to keep him on the floor, because they're looking like an infinitely better team when he is on the floor, and that kind of gonna force Mitch, I guess, if you will, to make not only the 3-guard dynamic work, but really not weigh heavy on one of the other two when need be. I guess not necessarily force the De'Aaron Fox if he's having an off night, like not necessarily force the Stephon Castle thing. Like an example, De'Aaron Fox did not shoot the ball great tonight. He had 6 points. He had 1 of 8 from the field. I mean, mind you, it was an abbreviated night, so it's not like he took most of the quarter off. So obviously you take the stat line with a little bit of a grain of salt. But if this game was competitive and Fox was struggling and Castle was playing well, which for the most part he did, and you're riding a real hot hand with Dylan Harper, it's the type of thing where if you're in Mitch's shoes, you're saying, you know what, I'm going to ride this hot hand with Harper, and Fox, you don't have it tonight. We'll just go this direction, and we'll see how that pans out, because he's been fantastic. He's been fantastic, and only continues to get better, and it continues to show the steps that he keeps making, and the positive strides that he's making, and just the impact that he's going to have on this team, and the luxury that he's going to have, that Mitch Johnson and this staff has going forward. Because when we're starting to see in real time, and really kind of an expedited process, if we're being honest, all these things come together. So much of this rebuilding process was just hope, ambition, and if this happens, if he takes this next step, if that guy takes this next step, if this works here, if this works there, they're really looking good. All those ifs are gone now, and all the hypotheticals are gone of wishful thinking. All the things that Spurs fans were wishing for, they're kind of getting, for better or worse at this point with this young group, a real idea of what they are, of what it is. And they're a really good team that's going to go into this slate of this, this Atlanta game, and then Oklahoma City and the Cavaliers and the Knicks to close out the month. They're going to look like a team that is playing 19-7 basketball. And they're going to be looking like a team that's going to be competing in the Western Conference. You try not to get excited over a win tonight, over a 4-21 team when you were 15.5-point favorites. But you know what? Like, listen, you enjoy it. We'd be real testy had they lost this game, and none of us would be really feeling good about these conversations that we're having right now. You see the positive steps that they're taking, and you feel really good about it. You feel really good about it, because as this thing gets real tough in that Western Conference, it gets real tight. I know we're not even in 2026 yet. They're going to need all hands on deck. And the fact that they've had the insurance policy as it even is, without Harper in the equation, just seeing how well Fox played, how well Castle's played. And now you have the luxury of seeing how well Harper is played into that equation too. It makes you feel better, knock on wood, if something comes up with this Wemby situation again, where, that calf starts tightening up a little bit, you feel even better than you already did. I mean, they won 75% of their games with him gone, 9 of 12. And now you're feeling just as confident when you see that they're probably not going to skip a beat. I mean, you're not going to win games of substance in April without Victor Wembanyama, but are you going to have enough to keep yourself afloat in the 4-5 spot, maybe even 3 spot in the Western Conference? I think we've learned that they absolutely do. They absolutely do. And then when you get the big guy back, happy, healthy, you're good to go. Only good things are happening. I mean, if you hit the rewind button where we're at just a couple weeks ago, not even a couple weeks, a couple days ago, I mean, I said right now, there's no reason to believe that this Spurs team can't beat anyone in a 7-game series, not named Oklahoma City. They've given you no reason to suggest otherwise. And nights like tonight pretty much speak to exactly that. In my opinion, they speak to exactly that because they have enough depth. They have enough unique ways to go out there to beat you, get the better of you, and walk away with a victory. And just like they did tonight. And these are the type of wins when you can see them doing little things. And we've gotten this far in the program, didn't even really talk about Devin Vassell a whole lot. And he had 18 points tonight. He looked fantastic, hit some big shots to, get them going in the third. They're in a good spot right now. And I really feel good. I really feel confident coming off that Vegas experience. Losing that game against the Knicks was not the worst thing in the world for this team. You want to come back with a cup, but there's a slight level of humility and being grounded that I think is really going to be beneficial for this team. And as a whole, I have a hard time feeling anything other than great right now as we near the end of the new year, as we near Christmas, as the game's about to get a whole lot tougher. That's the end of my rant. Let's talk about a play of the game tonight, if we haven't enough already.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
24 points for the young fella. No surprise. Dylan Harper taking care of business. Usually my buddy Devin, obviously, gets the call on these things. He'll be back tomorrow, as hopefully you will, following the game. Spurs and Hawks. As we know, it's an early tip-off, of course, on the East Coast. So Spurs on the East Coast. So that means it will be 6:30 local time. So once the final horn sounds on that thing, where he and I will be right here, hopefully talking about a San Antonio victory. As always, be sure to check out Jeff Garcia on the title pod bright and early in the AM. Have it with your coffee and then call it a Friday night with us, or maybe not call it. That's the last thing you need before heading out the door. I don't know, whatever it may be. We have you covered here on Locked On Spurs in every which way. And as always, when we put a bow on these programs, got to show love to the everydayers like yourself. You're the ones who drive this, who make this fun. Your engagement is great, and you're the reason that all of this is happening. And the reason the Locked On Network collectively as a whole is the #1 sports podcast network in all of the land. So as always, thank you for taking part in that. Spurs winners tonight, convincingly over the Washington Wizards. Back home in San Antonio and right back on the road they go for tomorrow night against Atlanta. So I guess usually, I put a bow on these things. I thank my colleague Devin Brown, but we'll thank him anyway. So for my colleague Devin Brown, who's not here tonight, my name's Casey Viera. We will talk to you tomorrow night. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.